All right, let's get right into it. Today we are tackling one of the most notorious, most debated, and honestly, most misunderstood books ever written, Niccolò Machiavelli's The Prince. You've probably heard of it, and not in a good way. It's been called a guidebook for tyrants, a blueprint for pure evil, but we're going to look at it as something else. A cold, brutally honest user's guide to power.
So before we even crack open the book, we have to deal with the elephant in the room. The one word that this book gave to the entire world, Machiavellian. We throw that word around all the time, right? But what are we really saying when we use it?
I mean, seriously, take a second. When you hear that a politician or a CEO is Machiavellian, what's the first thing that jumps into your mind? I'm betting it's not a compliment.
Yeah, exactly. You're thinking of a schemer, a backstabber, someone who sees other people not as human beings but as pawns in their own personal chess game. It's basically become shorthand for someone who'll do anything, absolutely anything to get ahead.
And look, this reputation has stuck around for centuries. His name itself has become a synonym for cunning, manipulation, and pure, unadulterated evil. But is that fair? Is that the whole story? To get to the truth, we kind of have to peel back that myth and look at the actual man and the world he was living in.
Because you see, the prince wasn't dreamed up in some quiet, peaceful ivory tower. No way. This book was forged in fire. It was born out of complete and utter chaos.
Try to picture 16th century Italy. Forget the beautiful art for a second. Politically, it was a total disaster. It wasn't one country. It was this messy patchwork of little city-states, all at war with each other. On top of that, you had huge powers like France and Spain just marching in whenever they wanted. It was a world of constant betrayal and violence. And Machiavelli? He was a top government official, right in the thick of it, until he was thrown out of power, tortured, and exiled. He literally wrote this book from rock bottom, trying to make sense of it all.
And that is the absolute key to understanding this book. Machiavelli wasn't writing a fairy tale about some ideal, morally perfect prince. He was writing a gritty, real-world survival manual. He was interested in what is, not what ought to be. He just wanted to know one thing. In a world this brutal, what actually works?
So, what's in this survival kit? What are the essential tools that Machiavelli thought a leader needed, not just stay alive, but to actually build a stable country in this mess?
Okay, his whole system really boils down to two core ideas. On one side, you have Fortuna. Think of it as fate, luck, or just the wild, unpredictable randomness of life. And on the other side, you have Virtù. Now, this is crucial. This does not mean virtue like being a good person. For Machiavelli, virtue was about skill, guts, boldness, and strength. It was the ability of a leader to grab Fortuna by the collar and impose some kind of order on all that chaos.
And he applied this practical thinking to everything. He broke down states into different types. If you inherit a kingdom from your father, that's planned on easy mode. Just don't screw it up. But if you conquer a new state or add new territory to your old one, well, that's the real test. That's where you have to show your virtù to establish control and unite people who might not want to be united.
He was also completely obsessed with military power. His logic was brutally simple. Hired soldiers, or mercenaries, fight for money. That makes them unreliable and, frankly, dangerous. A ruler's real power, the survival of their state, has to be built on an army of their own citizens, people who are loyal to their home, because weakness is an invitation for attack. Strength is your only true foundation.
All right, here we go. We've arrived at the big one, the most famous, most quoted, and most dangerously misunderstood piece of advice in the entire book.
Just let that sink in. It sounds awful, doesn't it? It's cold, it's calculating, it's the kind of thing you'd expect a movie villain to say. But, and this is a big but, Machiavelli had a very specific, very pragmatic reason for writing it.
So here's the breakdown. Love, he argued, is based on other people's feelings, and people are fickle. They'll break that bond of affection the second it's convenient for them. You can't control it. Fear, on the other hand, fear is based on the threat of punishment. And who controls the punishment? The ruler. It's not about enjoying cruelty. It's about choosing the more reliable, more dependable tool to keep society from falling apart.
And here it is, the single most important detail that almost everyone forgets. Right after that famous line, Machiavelli says that while fear is a useful tool, a ruler must do everything in their power to avoid being hated. Why? Because fear keeps people in line. Hatred makes them desperate. Hatred is what starts revolutions. So the goal isn't just to be feared, it's to be feared without being despised. That's a huge difference.
So when you put all these pieces together, the crazy, violent world he was living in, this toolkit for leaders, and the critical difference between being feared and being hated, you start to see a much, much different picture of what The Prince is all about.
At the end of the day, Machiavelli wasn't saying go be evil. He was making a much more shocking point. The rules for being a good person and the rules for being an effective leader are not the same. For the good of the state, to keep people safe and society stable, a ruler might have to do things that are personally immoral. For him, this wasn't something to enjoy, it was a tragic, painful necessity of leadership.
And whether we agree with him or not, you just can't deny his influence. I mean, from political scientists to military leaders like Napoleon, all the way to modern CEOs and glass skyscrapers, people are still reading The Prince to understand how power actually works, not just how we wish it would.
And maybe that's the real takeaway here. The Prince isn't a celebration of power, it's an exposé of it. It rips back the curtain and shows you the cold, hard, uncomfortable gears of politics, completely stripped of any idealism. It's less of a guide on how to be a tyrant, and more of a warning about the world as it really is.
Which leaves all of us with the same deeply uncomfortable question Machiavelli was wrestling with 500 years ago, and one we are still dealing with today. In the brutal arena of politics, can morality really survive? Or, when it really comes down to it, does the need to get and keep power always